So here's the big news from the New York Times. Harris will back federal ban on price gouging, campaign says. The vice president is leaning into an effort to partly blame big companies for inflation as progressives have pushed her to embrace the argument. Progressives that are pushing for that argument are excusing the warmongering, the hundreds of billions of dollars spent on foreign wars, which we should not be involved in, which are driving up prices. Donald Trump, however, made it quick when he explained how this, what this is.
Now Kamala is reportedly proposing communist price controls. She wants price controls. And if they worked, I'd go along with it, too. But they don't work. They actually have the exact opposite impact and effect. But it leads to food shortages, rationing, hunger.
He's completely correct. I also just want to point out, how come he has Folgers, Honey Bunches of Oats, and sausages next to him?
A little prop to show things that people can't afford anymore.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, that's what's...
And to round things off, I'm impressed, guys. The Washington Post. When your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose price controls. It's hard to exaggerate how bad Kamala Harris's price gouging proposal is. Wow. Washington Post.
Yeah, they're really in trouble if they're
serious
stuff like this.
I want to say that the Washington Post new management might actually be getting somewhere. They were saying, hey, going further to the left doesn't make any money. We have to
Correct.
change positions.
Yeah, they're doing that. But you know what? This might be the one time this works. I know it's never worked before, but just let them try this one more time.
This, it's what was that meme where someone was like, it was that woman from Al Jazeera Plus or whatever, and she said, I know that a lot of people have complained that socialism doesn't work, but just because something isn't done right the first time doesn't mean you just give up. And it's like you got to. And then someone responded with like, they're like, it's like she said something like, it's like cooking, and a guy responded with like, oops, burn the souffle, and it showed the killing fields or whatever. It's just like really atrocious, literal atrocities happening.
Yeah.
Whoops. So when you lose Washington Post, so real quick, I'll keep it real simple. Price controls don't work because you can't control one. You can't pin down one piece of the economy and then expect the rest of the economy to function properly. It's like dangling from the power lines. Eventually, they're going to snap. It's going to cause problems down the line. Actually, price controls are like when you ever see the video where the women SWAT team were trying to jump.
Yeah, the games or whatever, and she loses her gun in the pool.
Yeah, and they're trying to swing across the cable, and they all just sink to the middle.
Yeah.
That's what price controls do. Price controls are effectively 5 women on a SWAT team trying to slide across the cable all at once and then sinking to the middle, and everyone gets stuck and stops.
And then cue the Benny Hill music.
And then falls into the water.
Yeah. I mean, it's not... I have a friend, actually, I was saying, because he like runs a chain of grocery stores, basically, and he's like, our margins are not... Like, they haven't gone up. Like, our margins are not way higher. Like, we have our regular margins. Yes, inflation's higher, but our costs are higher, but we're not making crazy money here. So for you to do that, you're like, okay, well, maybe we'll stop carrying these products. I don't know.
I feel bad. Look, I know not everybody watches the news every single day. Not everybody can. If you're a plumber, you're going to go plumb, and then you're going to come back, and you're going to try and get what news you can. Maybe you're watching Timcast IRL. We try to do our best. So a lot of people don't understand, I don't know, economics 101. And it literally is economics 101. I Googled this to be like, let's get the economics professor's argument. And it's a bunch of just students being like, Econ 101, here's what price controls do. That it doesn't work.
No.
And I'm like, oh, wow, it's actually that simple, huh?
I mean, they did it in Canada. I'm from Canada. They did it in Pierre Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's father, did it in the 70s, and it just led to stagflation and a recession. It didn't work.
But we should try again, right? We shouldn't give up on this great
No.
idea. Apparently.
No.
We don't want to be quitters. There are different reports. I was watching something from NBC today where they were saying, she's proposing this idea, and actually this is something that the Biden administration also suggested, and so therefore she's just carrying on the legacy, which is to say, her plan so far is to steal Trump's talking points and then also propose bad ideas that are currently making your life unaffordable.
Right. Well, I guess
this does not sound like a winning message to me.
Yeah. Well, she ran out of stuff to. She looked at Trump's proposals and she's like, "Oh, those seem like good things to do, but I can't do those because I'll just be stealing those." So this is what she came up with.
Trump had a press conference today. And thank you for saying it, Donald Trump. He's like, Kamala says on day one she's going to do it. It's been 3 years. Do it now. You're in office now. I was like, yes. I can't understand that literally anybody would miss that. I mean, every single person anywhere, even 6-year-olds are probably like, but isn't she the vice president?
Mm-hmm. Maybe the president.
Maybe she doesn't even know what she's doing.
Sure.
She's like, am I?
And they're going to switch from Bidenomics to communism.
Nice.
Communism. Well, that's what she's trying to do. But I really do think we're likely going to see her roll out campaign policies that are Trump.
Yeah.
Biden. Remember how Biden did the speech, the State of the Union, and it was basically just a Trump speech?
Yes.
Yeah, they realized at a certain point, they were like, we are way off base. We can't maintain power, promising these things that are deeply unpopular. The only thing they can do is try and pivot. Here's my theory. In the 2000s, when you start getting the rise of social media, which turns into these blogs, which start promoting whatever the algorithms want, results in the intersectional woke rise in the early 2010s. And I've been saying this since then. The Democrats are chasing themselves into the toilet. They're chasing the whirlpool in a circle. What happens is some Democrat politician like AOC or whatever sees everyone online saying psychotic, garbled, far left nonsense. And she goes, I better say that. Meanwhile, regular people are going, what is she doing?
Yeah.
What is she promoting? And they keep going after the fringe element. But these fringe elements on social media keep one-upping each other. So, like the way it works on algorithmically, I was talking about this years and years ago. What happens is, one of these lefty blogs will write, Donald Trump said racist thing. Or like Donald Trump accused of racism. That's what it'll be. And they'll get 1 million views. And then the editor goes, wow, that story did really well. Like people must think Trump's racist. Run a story, Trump is racist. Then they do, 1 million views. Then they go, wow, that did really well. What do we do now? Well, we already said he was racist. He's the most racist. So the next day they one-up it. He's the most racist. Then the next day it's no one's ever been more racist than him. Then he may be as bad as Hitler. Then he is as bad as Hitler. And then finally he's worse than Hitler. And so what ends up happening is people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden chase voters on that premise until eventually the whole thing explodes because you can't go any further than you already did. And they have to be like, okay, we're losing voters because we're insane.
Yeah, and he's objectively not worse than Hitler. So people are like, kind of for a bit, people are like, okay, well, we're going to wait. He still has some time to maybe catch up to that. And then they're like, okay, well.
They still say it, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, also, Trump's smarter about this, too, because he wants to make energy cheaper, which is like one of the biggest inputs in food. So he's like, yeah, your food will come down when we figure out the energy thing. Kamala's just going straight to the source, essentially, being like, we're just going to put price caps because you can't steal his thing again.
Right now. She probably will try later.
Well, she's going to be dig, baby, dig.
Yeah, no, the thing is, with Kamala, it's that there is no plan. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that she is also as surprised as we all are that she has gotten this opportunity. But in part, there is not a strong understanding of economics on the left. So whoever's advising her campaign probably is like, I've heard price, I think, controlling prices would really help you out. She's like, great idea, because she doesn't know. The problem with a lot of her campaign is that she has this tie to the Biden economy, and the Biden economy is bad. People cannot afford things. Groceries are too expensive. Everything you own is becoming more costly. So they either need to say, well, she was the vice president. She couldn't do anything about it, which means that she has no experience and has basically been a lame duck for the last 4 years. She's useless. Or she's as responsible as Biden, at which point she needs to answer for why things are so bad. They're trying to sidestep that right now.
It's actually worse. And Trump, he really hit this on the press conference he had earlier. He said, Kamala may be worse than Joe Biden because she actually voted for these things. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden just signs off on them. When Congress or the Democrats try and pass these bills, Biden is just there saying, yeah, sure, whatever. Kamala's actually casting the tie-breaking votes in the Senate to move these bills to his desk. That is actually worse.
Didn't she vote against stopping taxes on tips at one point, too? I had seen an old article.
I'm pretty sure that's her original idea. She came up with that solely.
But when she was...
So there was a bill that would have increased IRS scrutiny on tips so that they could be taxed. She cast the tie-breaking vote to advance this spending bill, which included those provisions. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like the bill was literally tax tips and she went, aha, and she rubber-stamped it. It was this big package.
That was the 87,000 new IRS.
It was the Inflation Reduction Act.
Is that what it was? Yeah. So check this out. Washington Post says, it's not hard to figure out where the proposal came from. Voters want to blame someone for high grocery bills. And the presidential candidates have apparently decided the choices are either Biden administration or corporate greed. Harris has chosen the latter. Have you guys seen the Subway story today?
Yeah.
Subway's having an emergency meeting because sales are down and they're struggling. And certainly, I think it's fair to say that Subway's had some issues with maybe a spokesperson, something like that.
I don't think it was great.
But there was this great post from Chef Gruel where he's basically saying, like, Subway's value proposition to customers is fast, low cost, easy food, fresh right in front of you. And for the franchisees, it's all of these ingredients are out of the bag, ready to go. You get them in the fridge, boom, tomatoes, boom, onions, chopped, sliced, bang, ready to go. So apparently what's happened is, as inflation has increased, certain food items became too expensive. So Subway says nobody's going to want to buy a $12 sandwich if we include this particular, meat product or vegetable. So we can't sell it. So then they remove those items. Less people then go to Subway. Now they're not selling enough sandwiches. Then they've got to increase costs. Now nobody really wants to buy any of it. And now Subway is suffering because
And the cost of the build-outs, because they were famously, it was cheap to start a Subway franchise because there was no ovens or anything like that. And now they're like that, even without that stuff, it's still through the roof.
Yep. And so I was talking about this earlier this morning. There was a food truck by us and it was barbecue. And I went there one day and they said, no more brisket. And I was like, wow, but you're barbecue, you know brisket. And he said, the cost of beef is so high. In order for me to break even selling them at cost, it would be a $20 sandwich.
Yeah.
He's like, no one will buy that. So what's the point of me carrying beef anymore? So now it's just pulled pork and chicken. And then he went out of business.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever go to any, like I do this all the time in New York, because if you ever go to a restaurant and I'll go on Google Maps or whatever to look for it. And then when they have the photos and you click on the photos of the menu, just to see what's on the menu prices are nowhere near. These are not old photos. And you go to the actual restaurant and you're like, every single item is so much more expensive than 2 years ago.
Man, I love Subway too.
I don't. The
like
quality kind of has dropped off. And
I haven't been there in a long time.
Go there. You'll be like, tastes pretty. It's pretty
really
bland.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Sad. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.